Hi, it's Dr. Gutierrez with a quick review on how to study verbs in Spanish. All I'm going to do in this video is talk briefly about some techniques for memorizing verbs and give you a quick review of the present tense so you can hear what it sounds like and a few of the stem changing verbs. So let's go ahead and get started with a few suggestions for how to memorize verbs. The key for succeeding in this class and in the classes that come after it is to be able to produce these conjugations quickly, easily, and accurately. What that means, you have to memorize them in a way that 3 months from now you'll still have those conjugations, whether they're regular or irregular. How do you do this? I recommend that everyone copy verbs over and over. What this allows you to do is to double check your spelling so that on written tests you'll know that, oh yeah, that has an accent, or oh yeah, that has an E, not an I. So it helps you with your spelling. The second suggestion that I make is to recite these conjugations out loud. A large portion of your grade in the class is based on your ability to have conversations, and so you need to be able to produce these forms quickly and accurately out loud. The last piece of advice I have is that you also practice, once you have the patterns down, you practice them out of order. Usually what I do is I have one stack of verb cards that have the verb on the front, and then another stack of subject cards, yo, tú, él, Maria, mi papá, whatever, that I can run through. So I flip up a verb card, and then I flip over a subject card, and I conjugate to match that subject. It sort of mimics what happens in real life speech, in real conversations, where you're not conjugating things in order. You pull out the word you need when you need it. Okay, having said all that, let's look at the basics of verb conjugation in Spanish. You know already that Spanish has 3 endings, AR, ER, and IR, that are in its infinitives. So in this case, hablar means to speak. Hablar is the infinitive. When I want to conjugate it, I have to drop the AR, and that leaves me with the stem, H-A-B-L. The stem. Excuse me. You'll always see in my class that I organize verbs by this six space grid. Upper left hand corner, yo, then underneath it tú, él, ella, usted. Upper right hand corner, hablamos, habláis, hablan is nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, and ustedes. So I don't write the subjects there because often in Spanish they don't appear in the sentences, and you need to be able to just recognize the verbs. So for hablar, what you want to do is look at that infinitive and be able to say hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis, hablan. Do note that the vosotros form has an accent on it. So go ahead, pause the video, and repeat those out loud. Moving on to creer. Same idea. You're going to drop the ER to produce a CRE stem, and then you're going to add the endings. Creo, crees, cree, creemos, creéis, creen. So note that a strong vowel, the E's and O's, and actually A's, although it doesn't show up in this example, they are each their own syllable when they're next to each other. So the third person for él is cree, 2 syllables, cree, cree. Okay? Pause the video, repeat this list. The last example that I'm going to go over in the present tense is IR verbs. Again, drop the IR, you have the stem VIV, and you're going to tack all the endings onto that. Vivo, vives, vive, vivimos, vivís, viven. Note that the vosotros again has an accent, and that in Spanish the letter V is pronounced exactly like the letter B. So it's not vivo, but vivo. So practice that one out loud. The next step would be to practice these randomly, to conjugate without actually looking at it, and then double check that to make sure you're doing the same thing. So if you want, you can pause the video again, write down a couple of subjects, and just run through these 3 verbs for practice. So next, we're going to talk a bit about stem changing verbs. I just have a few examples. The stem changing verbs, you probably have already heard them called boot verbs. And it's because all of the changes, in this case it's an O that changes to a UE, all of them happen in the shape of a boot. So the only ones that don't change are the nosotros and vosotros forms. So this one you're going to say puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, podéis, pueden. We is the sound that you're making. Go ahead, pause the video and repeat these words. Servir is another example of a stem changing verb. This one's a little different because it changes from E to just an I. It's common in IR verbs that this kind of stem change appears. So this one's going to be sirvo, sirves, sirve, servimos, servis, sirven. Again, the stem change only happens in the yo, tú, él, ella, ellos, ellas forms. So the nosotros and vosotros do not. Let me show you one other thing with stem changing verbs. In this particular case, it's an E to IE. The stem change sometimes happens not in that first syllable. It's always going to be in the syllable right before the end. So this one is an E to IE change, and it's prefiero, prefiere, prefiere, preferimos, preferís, prefieren. So again, stem change happens everywhere except nosotros and vosotros, but it's that second E that's going to change. Let's look at one other change in the verb tener, E to IE. In this case, the yo form is also irregular, so you just have to wrap that into your memorization. So this one's going to sound like tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen. And last but not least, you can practice all of these verbs, both the regular present tense ones and the irregular stem changing ones. I have a couple of examples on the screen. You can find others online if you just Google master list of Spanish stem changing verbs, anything like that. I could also recommend, there's a pretty good website. It's very visually heavy, but if you learn well through reading, it's a good site for you, called studyspanish.com, and they have fairly nice lists. So remember, practice these out loud, copy them down, practice them out of order, and I look forward to hearing how it goes.